Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. So today I'm doing my January wrap-up, so stay tuned. So here are my January stats. In January I read 4 books, 3 of which were audio, 1 was physical. I had 0 1-stars, 0 2-stars, 1 3-star, 2 4-stars, and 1 5-star. I read a total of 1,928 pages. Not nearly as many as I would normally read, but I don't know. I guess I was in a little bit of a reading slump. I think I still kind of am, but I'm trying to get out of that this month by doing a ridiculous amount of readathons and reading like 15 plus books, so that should knock me out of my reading slump. Anyway, the first book that I read in January is Wayfarer by Alexandra Bracken, and this is the second book in the Passengers duology, I believe. I listened to the audiobook of this, and I can tell you that this book picks up exactly where Passengers ends, which I guess can be a great thing if you're reading the stories practically back to back, but if you're reading them with a good chunk of time in between them, I personally like a little bit of a recap in the beginning to kind of refresh your memory on what was in the other book. And this really didn't. It picked up exactly where Passengers left off, which kind of left me lost for a little bit because it took me a little while to remember, okay, what was going on. And I kind of wish I had actually gone back and reread the last couple of chapters of Passengers because it did take me a little while to kind of figure out what was going on. Anyway, that being said, I really did enjoy this book. I actually gave it a 4.25, and in my opinion, it has a little something for everybody. We've got pirates, romance, ninjas, time travel, there's battles. It's a pretty epic tale, I think. There's also a very diverse cast in this book that I think a lot of people could find someone in there that they kind of relate to. Now, I do have to say, the last couple chapters of this book, oh my gosh, they were so intense. Like, so intense that I had to slow down my audiobook a lot and rewind a bit because I didn't want to miss anything, and there was just so much going on. Now, I do want to warn you, there's some gore during that, but it's so good, and I really, really, really enjoyed it, and I loved how this story ended. Okay, so the next book that I read, and I'm sorry, I do not have my dust jacket because, well, I took it off when I was reading it, and I don't know where it is. It's somewhere in my house. It's just kind of, I don't know, flown away. It's hiding from me somewhere, I don't know. So the second book I read is City of Bones by Cassandra Clare, and this was a reread. I read this many years ago, and I read the whole series many years ago and loved it then, and I love it just as much now as I did then. And I'm doing the Shadowhunters read along with Emma over at Emma Books, and I'm so glad that I decided to take part in this, and it gave me a good excuse to reread these books, and I just love them so much, and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. If you don't know the Mortal Instrument series, I highly, highly, highly recommend it. To give you a little bit of a synopsis of City of Bones, without really giving anything away. So our main character, Carrie Flay, meets this group of Shadowhunter warriors, and they're dedicated to ridding the earth of demons. And Clary's able to see them when nobody else is. Next thing you know, Clary's mother disappears, and just so you know, all of this happens in like the first chapter or 2. So Clary's mother disappears, and then Clary's attacked by a demon herself, and she's very quickly swept away into the Shadowhunters world and starts to discover things about herself and her mother that she never would have thought possible. Someone has altered her memories, and in this book she's on the hunt for answers and searching for her mother, and it's so good. And I've already started City of Ashes, which is book 2, which again is a reread. But this was like an old friend. Loved it so much. Okay, the third book that I read for January, and I kind of went back and forth between reading and listening to this, but I mostly listened to the audiobook, and that is A Darker Shade of Magic by V.E. Schwab. And I wanted to get at least this one in before February 10th, because on February 10th I get to go and meet Victoria Schwab, which I'm so excited about, and get her to sign my books and all of that. Now, I read this during one of my 24-hour readathons. And like I said, I listened to the audiobook for the most part. And in my opinion, the narration was good. However, in my opinion, this book requires way too much focus to listen to it in an audiobook while you're doing something else. I kind of found like if I didn't want to be lost while listening to it, I had to stop what I was doing and just listen. And I was actually trying to listen to it while doing the reorganizing my shelf thing. But I was finding that so hard to do because I couldn't think about both things at the same time. My brain just would not work that way. And there was so much going on in this story that it was so easy to kind of get lost. And so I think this is probably a book that's better read than listened to. Or if you're going to listen to it, just listen to it and don't try to do anything else. I did give this book 4 stars though. So a little brief synopsis about this book. So Kel is our main character, and he is one of the last Antari magicians with this rare coveted ability to travel between parallel Londons. Now we have Red London, White London, Grey London, and once upon a time, Black London. And Kel works for the royal families, and he delivers messages between the royal families, between the parallel Londons. Kel is also a smuggler. That is until he ends up with something that shouldn't exist, and it gets him in a lot of trouble. And when that happens, Kel escapes to Grey London, where he meets Delilah Bard, who at this point in the series is my favorite character. She is very fun and quite spunky. So she robs him, she saves him, and then she refuses to leave his side, even when he desperately wants her to. She's looking for an adventure, and with Kel, she definitely finds that adventure. And I'm really looking forward to getting to the second book in this series. So the last book that I read in January is The Gentleman's Guide to Vice and Virtue. I gave this book a 3.75. It wasn't quite a 4 for me, but it was a very good, very entertaining story. Now, that being said, the first 75 to 100 pages of this book just really were not getting my interest. It was very slow moving for me, and I actually considered DNFing it just because it was kind of dull. However, when our characters meet the highwaymen, that's when the story turns and becomes much, much more entertaining. And I'm really glad that I continued reading it because it really turned out to be such a cute story, and I really became invested in these characters. So our main character, Monty, is on his grand tour of Europe before he has to kind of go to work for the family. And he's gone with his sister Felicity and his best friend Percy, who he is secretly in love with. At the beginning of the story, Monty's character was more of a slightly annoying, privileged playboy. But throughout the story, he really grew as a person and became this character that you really couldn't help but love. And Percy, oh my goodness, Percy. He is such a sweet and patient and kind friend. And he cares for others more than he cares for himself. And Felicity, oh my goodness, she is so much more than anybody ever gives her credit for. The girl is tough, she's resourceful, and she's incredibly smart. Now, these three, they found themselves in all kinds of trouble. And the moment that you thought they had found a way out of their trouble, they'd find themselves in some other kind of trouble. And it was really just, it was a fun read. And I do actually recommend that you read this because it's so cute. And there's a second book. I've heard it's supposed to be about Felicity, which she's a cool character. So I'm kind of curious to see how her book turns out. Okay, so those are all of the books that I read in January. Have you read any of them? Did you like them? Did you not like them? Comment down below and let me know. So in honor of StrikeBackVideoAthon, I want to shout out Abby over at Abby's Book Reviews. Abby does, well, she does like book hauls and wrap up videos, but the majority of her videos are like bookish type subscription boxes where, you know, things like Owl Crate and that kind of thing, but also like bookish teas and other bookish boxes that may not necessarily have books in them, but bookish items. And she gets all kinds of them that I had never even heard of. So if you're interested in her haul videos or her wrap-ups or any of these different bookish boxes, go check her out. And I will make sure that I include her link in the description down below, so definitely go and check her out. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, bye!